Oh, last topic.
Okay. Nice. So this
Ooh.
is so the question we're getting now is related again to that whole pandemic experience that we were talking about earlier, and how that shift, had an impact not just on us, but also specifically Mike and Abby, you were sharing also for Tikoy, right? And for Pau. So the question is, I don't feel okay. Do I pretend, brush it off, let people know? Any tips?
Interesting. With regards to the pandemic, right? So I think
Or let's I have a lot. I'm saying that because I got a lot of coaches who bring this up, but it doesn't have to be about pandemic, because even before the pandemic happened, I meet people, and I know some people who also have this question.
Mm-hmm.
I just got to meet a lot more people, and there was a time where I was feeling this way as well when the pandemic happens. I think this is so much relevant now. So it doesn't have to necessarily be about the impact of the pandemic, although in your case it could be, that could be it.
Yeah, I guess for us, and we've mentioned this a while ago, really having a tribe or a community, and with regards to these kind of feelings, they can be a bit more personal. So what is important for us is really having to have a support group.
Yeah.
Really finding, 2 or 3 people wherein we can share how we feel, and especially that we're a couple now. So we also have like 2 couples that we can just talk about how we are feeling during these times. So I guess that's very important. Not just having friends, but also your family. If your family is also considered as your support group, wherein you can just be yourself and you can just open up. I know not all of us have that kind of family where you can be yourself. That's really well and good. But if you also have friends who can be a good support also for you. So really finding that tribe that you can just express yourself, and you can also get their take on you. And I think it's very important that this tribe also practices, no judgment.
Yeah.
I hope that your support group are also proactive, and that they also don't, invalidate your feelings.
Right.
And yeah, I guess for over the years, I realized that the support group that I really like to belong in are really people who just listen. Because sometimes when we talk about our emotions, we don't really need answers right away, or we don't need to be fixed. We just want to be listened to.
For me, it also helps to label our feelings. When the pandemic started, I didn't know I was being extra irritable until I found out that there's such a thing as cabin fever. So I sometimes I take it out on Mark or on Tikoy, and I just wasn't aware that I'm having all these feelings of fear, uncertainty, and not really knowing what to do. And then, but after that, when I learned that this is cabin fever, and this is probably what you're feeling, that's when we started to process it, and that's when I was able to talk better with her, because from our church we have our own small groups where we do life together, and then I'm just really happy that my group were the type of people who would say na okay lang yan, next time ganito lang gagawin mo. So they just listen, they just talk. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to feel stress, pwedeng mapagod, things like that. Because especially when I became a mom, parang all the more I realized that I can't do this on my own. that you would need all the mental support that you need because it all starts there, I think.
And speaking of naming your emotions, and I guess the term became popular at the start of 2021 when they mentioned that what we're feeling actually right now during the pandemic is that we are languishing, that we actually don't have like a clear vision of when we can get out of this tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
And once we get to name our emotions, then it kind of, unloads some of the burden, because I had that aha moment. Yeah, that's what I feel. And, there's a name for that. And once you get to name that, it's like, when you get to name the monster, then you know how to defeat that, or in a way, slay that. So, and relating to parenting, we also advocate, to Tikoy, we also advocate naming his emotions. I think since last year, we started teaching him how to name his emotions. So when he's sad, so he knows that when he's sad, when he's happy. So we try to also tell him to do that, because as adults, we realize that it's helpful when we try to name our emotions.
Yeah. Nice.
Great. Lippy, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this.
I mean, yeah, definitely, because that's to pretend, brush it off. What you're feeling is the worst. Suppression is the worst way of stress management. That's science-based. Not necessarily about letting people know. I think it has to start with you accepting and you knowing what it is you know. What your awareness of what you're going through. Apart from having a tribe and what Mark and Abby has shared, another option, if any of you are listening and it's something that you want to explore, dig deeper, gain an awareness about, you can go seek professional help. Okay, so different avenues you can search it, and maybe the people who have met any of these professionals, so you can get coached, you can talk to a psychologist, a therapist, right? If you are beginning to feel, physical manifestations or whatnot, maybe a psychiatrist. There are lots of different titles that I'm throwing out, but for me, if just meet someone you trust, you're comfortable with, and take it from there, then, go to a capable professional. They'll be able to refer you to whoever it is that will be able to help you the most. Because there are times where we do also need professional help.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I want to add to the table. That's something I feel is important, and as I shout out that to us here in the Philippines, we should be more open about, because there's been a stigma around that, and coming from that industry myself, it's not just because I'm part of those professionals, but it's also because I've experienced the power of being helped that way as well, and of my friends and family being helped that way also.
Mm-hmm.
And right, to hell with the stigma. And what's important here is not to pretend and not to brush it off, and deal it what it is, treat it for what it is.
Yeah.
What about you, Pao?
Well, the three of you have said quite a bit. So I'll just play back a few things that stood out for me. So from you, Lippy, I think you started with a sense of self-awareness. You said something like you don't necessarily need to, tell people about it, but first be aware of it for yourself, which I agree with. And then I'll get back to that in a while. You also mentioned seeking help. And Mark mentioned the idea of a tribe and having a community. I think towards the end of what Mark said, he also talked about having a safe space. Because, of course, the last thing you want is to share and pour your feelings out and to have people laughing at you or judging you for it. And, of course, that's not going to help. So I think there's really a common thread. Now, I guess what I'll add, and a lot of this will be slight repetitions of what the three of you have already said, but I think going back to what I mentioned with the kids earlier, I think the first part, similar to you, Lippy, would be understanding and acknowledging the feeling. Lippy, I think this will be familiar to you, but in strength coaching, we have the idea of name it, claim it, aim it.
Yeah.
I think the first two, at least in this case, when it comes to feelings, are important. Your ability to name the feeling, I think, is important because of a number of things. It helps you understand what you're going through. maybe in terms of resolution later on, maybe not right now. It also helps you understand what will help you resolve it. But at the same time, I think, at the same time, I think claiming it is also important, meaning owning the feeling. I am feeling sad. I am feeling depressed. I am feeling cabin fever, as Abby put it. And the reason I mention that is because very often sige, I'll speak for myself. Often I think when we feel bad, and this is something I've experienced myself, the tendency is to look for someone to blame. Ikaw kasi, because you didn't help me. Because you didn't do this for me. Because you don't care about me. And I think the difficulty there is if we pass the feeling on to someone else and we blame them for it, we let go of our ability in a sense to address it or to understand what we can do about it, because now we're basically saying, kunyari, Lippy, kasalanan mo. So it's up to you to fix it. And what if, as Mark and Abby pointed out earlier, what if the person has no idea? What if the person is walking around business as usual, no
May
harm
kasalanan
intended?
pala ako.
Oh, diba? May kasalanan ka pala. And if that never happens, then hindi mare-resolve. You're forever probably going to brush it aside and effectively suppress it. So that's why I feel that the idea of name it, claim it is important, because it's understanding what you're going through and also saying, this is my feeling. This is what I'm going through. And then also, I think as adults, one of the things that many of us have is our shoulds. Like, matanda na ako, hindi dapat ganito yung nararamdaman ko. So, sa liit-liit na bagay, dapat hindi ako malulungkot. Dapat hindi ako naiinis. And I don't think it helps, because really at the end of the day, all we're saying is, I feel bad, but I shouldn't feel bad. And the reality is, telling ourselves that we shouldn't feel bad doesn't take away the bad feeling. Diba? In fact, it makes it worse. Because effectively what we're doing is we're judging ourselves. We're saying, I feel bad, and we're saying, pero hindi dapat. O so double whammy ka ngayon. Masama na yung pakiramdam mo, mali ka pa. O so, and I think that's, while not many may be aware of it, that's something that we do very often. Matanda na ako, or especially for those of us who are in higher positions, CEO na ako, dapat hindi na ganito yung nararamdaman ko. Ba't ba ako makikialam sa ganyan tao? But so what? You're a person. We're all human beings, no matter what your designation, no matter how old you are, which is, again, I'll go back to the kids, di ba? One of the things that people are so often do is, oh, don't cry na. But what if the child is feeling bad? And you're telling him not to feel bad, di ba? So I'll just go back to, again, let go of the shoulds. Lippy, you mentioned stigma. And I think those are related. Because the idea of, I shouldn't cry. I'm a man, I shouldn't cry. I'm a grown person, I'm a CEO, I'm a bigwig, I shouldn't cry. I think there's a stigma attached to that, diba? Because big people don't cry. And at the end of the day, if we don't let go of that, we sort of go to the idea of brushing it off, setting it aside, until one day it just snowballs and it explodes somehow. Some ways more dramatic than others. In some ways, we end up languishing even without COVID-19, and we may not even be aware of it. So I think that's what I would add to it. And also, Lippy, you mentioned professional help. I think one of the benefits of naming it and claiming it is also giving you the understanding of, or the opportunity to somehow understand what will help. Do I need to talk to someone, whether professional or just a close friend? Do I need to just get away for a moment, detach myself momentarily, purposefully, not wander around aimlessly, but purposefully. So I guess in a way that's it. It's let go of the stigma and the shoulds, and at the same time understand what you're going through to help you understand what is it you need. Is it a safe space with others? Is it a safe space by myself? For Lippy and myself, is it a safe place with our guitars, for example, once in a while? So there, the different things, right? It's not a one-shot solution for everything. So I guess that's what I would add there.
Yeah. Thank you. I wouldn't have said it. I couldn't have said it any better. Thank you for the executive summary of our.